January 5, 1942. Two German officers stride through the stone corridors of Colditz Castle, the most escape-proof prison in the entire Third Reich. Guard dogs, searchlights, armed sentries posted on every parapet, a full battalion standing watch, one soldier for every two prisoners. Goering himself declared this fortress unbreakable. But something about these two officers is off. Their buttons, crude lead casts poured from stolen plumbing over candle flames. The holster, sliced from linoleum floor tile. The belt, painted cardboard. One careful glance destroys everything. And right now, a German sergeant sits 10 feet ahead under electric light. One of these men is British Lieutenant Ari Neve. 6 months earlier, he attempted this identical escape. The scenery paint on his cap glowed bright green beneath the searchlights. The guards didn't fire. They laughed. Tonight, every single component has been rebuilt from nothing. But here's what nobody anticipates. The man the Third Reich locked behind these walls will one day walk into Nuremberg and compel those same commanders to read the charges against their own empire. What pushed him to attempt the same suicide mission a second time? What did that first catastrophic failure burn into his mind? May 1940, northern France. German panzer divisions have shattered the Allied lines and are surging toward the English Channel. In the port city of Calais, a skeleton rear guard of British troops claws to slow the advance, buying hours for the evacuation at Dunkirk, 26 miles northeast. Lieutenant Ari Neve, 24 years old, fresh off a law degree at Oxford, commands a patchwork troop from the 1st Searchlight Regiment, Royal Artillery. Men he himself described as an ill-assorted, randomly equipped unit, separated from their original positions and armed with whatever they could scrage. He is not a career soldier. He is a lawyer with a rifle, ordered to hold a port city against tanks. Their mission is not victory. Their mission is to make the Germans bleed for every block, every alley, every bridge leading to the harbour, so 300,000 men can board boats at Dunkirk. Nobody in Calais expects to survive. They are purchasing time with their bodies so the British Army lives to fight again. If Calais falls too fast, Dunkirk collapses. Neve understands this. Every soldier standing beside him understands this. They are fighting to make their deaths count. Artillery shells crack against the medieval walls of the old town. Tracer rounds carve red lines through the air. Smoke stains the sky a filthy orange above the port. Streets choked with abandoned vehicles, shattered glass, and men who stopped breathing hours ago. Neve leads his unit across an exposed square toward the docks. A shell detonates nearby. White-hot shrapnel tears through his right thigh. He drops into burning rubble. Drags himself vertical. Keeps moving on one functioning leg. His orders are plain. Hold the line, whatever the cost. Around him, men go down and stay down. The Germans do not slow. Every minute Neve's rearguard survives is another minute for the boats at Dunkirk. Every man here has done the arithmetic. On May 23, 1940, a German officer discovers Neve crawling through wreckage, uniform torn to rags, legs drenched in blood. The battle for Calais is finished. Neve is dragged upright. He is 24 years old, wounded, and now a prisoner of war. From this moment forward, he has one single objective: reverse that status. Transport trucks haul him east into Germany. He passes through Oflag 9A/H near Spangenberg Castle, where he spends months studying fences and memorizing sentry rotations. February 1941, transfer to Stalag 20A near Thorn in occupied western Poland. At every camp, Neve walks the perimeter, cataloguing weaknesses. Captivity is a sentence he will not serve. April 1941. He and a fellow officer named Norman Forbes slip out of thorn under darkness, heading east towards Soviet-controlled territory. They push through moonless Polish forests for days, sleeping in ditches, navigating by memory and stolen compass. Then, near a rail junction at Elk, dawn catches them in open ground. Nowhere to run, no ditch deep enough, no tree line close enough. A Gestapo car skids to a halt on the road ahead. Two officers step out, rifles leveled. Neve raises his hands. He has trudged for days through frozen woodland, collapsed into ditches for sleep, survived on almost nothing. And it ends here. A country road, 30 seconds of bad light. Days of marching, wiped out in moments. That second failure stamps his fate. The Germans classify Neve as a persistent escaper, an ostracizer, and ship him to the one facility designed for men exactly like him. In May 1941, his boots strike the cobblestones of Colditz Castle's inner courtyard. The cliff plunges 75 meters to the river below. Sentries salute. Prisoners watch from barred windows. The walls run 2 meters thick. Every prior escape attempt from this fortress has failed. Colditz has confined French generals, Polish colonels, British commando officers, men with every motive and every skill to run. Not one has made it home. The system is convinced it has him sealed away for good. But how do you contain a man who treats every locked door as a riddle and every failed attempt as data? What happens when the Reich's most dangerous escape artists land in the same building and start trading secrets? Inside Colditz, existence compresses to stone corridors, barred windows, and that endless drop to the river. Winter air slices through the cells like a knife edge. Searchlights rake the darkness every few seconds, striping white bands across the ceiling. Guard dogs lunge against chains in the corner yards. Over 500 officers, British, French, Polish, Dutch, Belgian, pack into cramped sleeping quarters on stiff bunks under relentless surveillance. A full German battalion mans the castle. Roughly 1 soldier for every 2 prisoners. No work detail, no labor assignment, no structure to carry a man through the day. Just stone walls, head counts 4 times daily, and the certainty that the cliff beyond the glass drops 75 meters to frozen water. The monotony is engineered. Boredom, cold, overcrowding. The Germans deploy these as precisely as barbed wire. But they have committed a catastrophic error. By concentrating every escape artist inside one fortress, they have constructed an academy of defiance. French officers who tunneled out of Bavarian camps exchange intelligence with Polish soldiers who forged documents in Silesia. Dutch prisoners run German accent drills in their cells. An escape committee, a dozen intent faces huddled beneath blankets by candlelight, convenes after every roll call. They coordinate plans so one group's attempt doesn't compromise another's cover. They assign escape officers who monitor every active scheme, distribute scarce materials like dye and wire, enforce a queue so the castle doesn't erupt in simultaneous chaos. Neve, intense and quiet, sits among them. Colditz is meant to break these men. Instead, it is welding them into a collective intelligence network more advanced than any single escape plan. Neve's own scheme crystallizes that summer. British prisoners stage theatrical performances in a small hall inside the castle. Concerts, plays, variety shows. German officers attend from the front rows. Beneath the theatre's wooden stage, Neve and his team have mapped a route. A trapdoor descends to a storeroom connecting through a ceiling passage above the guardhouse to the German side of the castle. The plan exploits a psychological blind spot. Sentries scan for prisoners, scaling walls, snipping wire, burrowing under floors. Nobody watches for officers strolling calmly out through the German quarters. On the night of August 28, 1941, Neve pulls on his disguise. A Polish greatcoat, dyed field grey, a black officer's cap coated in scenery paint, a cardboard belt painted silver, and marches toward the guardhouse with two others. A spotlight flares. A guard screams, "Halt!" In the white flood of the searchlight, the paint on Neve's cap fluoresces a vivid, unmistakable green. Not dark, not dull, bright, radioactive green, visible from 30 meters. The guards freeze, then burst out laughing. Paul P.M., the German security officer, saunters over, inspects the glowing cap with theatrical amusement, and delivers his verdict. Corporal Neve is to be sent to the Russian front. 6 months of planning, every stolen material, every rehearsed step, exposed by a tin of cheap paint nobody thought to test under a searchlight. Mocking salutes trail Neve down the corridor to solitary confinement. In that cell, silence crushes inward from every surface. The shame bites harder than any formal punishment. The idea was right. Walk out dressed as a German officer. Target the one direction no sentry ever scrutinizes. But the execution was amateur hour. Paint so cheap it gave him away under bright light. Materials never tested. A timeline so compressed it left zero room for failure. He sits on the thin bunk, rotates the cuffs around his wrists, and reaches a cold conclusion. The strategy lives. Every physical element must be rebuilt from nothing, stress-tested under conditions that mirror the real escape, and perfected before he stakes his life on that same corridor again. If Colditz was engineered to crush Defiance, it chose the wrong prisoner. He has no materials, no outside contact, no promise the next attempt won't collapse the same way. But perfecting a disguise capable of fooling trained soldiers beneath electric light is one problem. Finding a partner who speaks flawless German, no British undertone, no foreign music beneath the consonants, is a different problem entirely. Where inside this stone fortress will Neve locate someone skilled enough and bold enough to walk that same corridor beside him? And when he does, what will it cost them both to get it right? Winter 1941. Months crawl forward. Neve observes everything. During meals, he maps guard rotations. At roll calls, he times each sentry's patrol down to the second. He memorizes faces, insignia, personal habits. Which guard lights a cigarette at the same corner every night? Which sergeant lingers near the gate when rain falls? Which shift change runs 3 minutes behind on Sundays? He keeps nothing written. One scrap of paper found during a search destroys everything. Every observation feeds directly into memory. Catalogued, cross-referenced against every other detail. A bored guard, a careless search, a predictable shift transition. Each gap becomes a weapon, filed away for later use. His partner surfaces from the Dutch contingent. Lieutenant Anthony Lutine, calm, sharp-eyed. An officer who speaks German without a single foreign trace. Not textbook German, not careful German. Native German, the kind that never pauses before a word, never softens a consonant, never carries the faint rhythm of another language beneath it. Neve has spent weeks testing candidates, quiet conversations in corners of the yard, listening for that split-second hesitation that would get them both killed at the first checkpoint. Lutine has no hesitation. Neve brings the stubborn audacity. Lutine brings linguistic precision. Together they form a unit built to exploit the single flaw Neve identified in August, the assumption that no prisoner would walk out through the German side of the castle dressed as one of their own. They destroy every remnant of the first attempt. Nothing will be improvised. A Dutch overcoat is stripped, re-dyed, and tailored to the exact shade of Wehrmacht Feldgrau. Scraps of lead plumbing are stolen from castle walls, melted over smuggled candle stubs, poured into hand-carved button molds. Neve blows on each cooling button until it matches the weight and sheen of genuine German brass. Linoleum ripped from dormitory floors is boiled, shaped, and rubbed until it passes for leather holster material. A belt is constructed from cardboard, painted, buffed until it gleams like regulation issue. Every component is tested by candlelight, then tested again under a hoarded electric torch. They work through blind hours past dawn, rebuilding the same disguise that failed. Except this time, each piece survives a second glance. If you're finding value in this story of nerve and craftsmanship, consider subscribing. Most viewers watching right now haven't yet, and one tap helps these stories reach more people. The escape route undergoes equal refinement. Beneath the theatre stage, they've cut a trapdoor leading into a storeroom. From that storeroom, a corridor runs directly above the German guardhouse and opens onto the officers' courtyard on the Nazi side of the castle. The plan's audacity is its own camouflage. Sentries watch for prisoners scaling walls, cutting wire, tunneling beneath floors. Nobody watches for two German officers strolling through the front gate. Beyond the castle walls, a Dutch prisoner captured near the Swiss border town of Singen has shared critical intelligence, Gestapo checkpoint patterns, crossing points. This man walked the exact roads Neve and Lutine will follow. He knows which platforms run permanent identity checks and which only bother on market days. He knows the 2-kilometer stretch of border wire near Singen, where the patrol gap yawns widest. He was captured, but on a different road, making a different error. Neve and Lutine commit every detail to memory. Train timetables, border patrol intervals, the names of towns where document inspections bite hardest. The date locks in, January 5, 1942. That evening, British prisoners mount a theatrical performance. German officers occupy the front rows. A single drowsy guard watches the gate. Backstage, 4 men, Neve and Lutine, plus 1 British and 1 Dutch officer, crouch in darkness above the stage. Uniforms pressed sharp, forged documents tucked into breast pockets, lead buttons catching the barest sliver of light. The curtain drops on the final act. Applause rolls through the hall. Somewhere below, a guard yawns. 5 months of obsessive preparation now balance on the next 90 seconds. 5 months of cataloguing guard rotations, testing button molds by candlelight, drilling German phrases until they surface without conscious effort. 1 flawed button ends everything. 1 guard who lingers a half-second too long. 1 card player stepping into the corridor for a cigarette at precisely the wrong moment. Because there is one variable beyond Neve's control. The trapdoor passes directly above a room where German soldiers play cards deep into the night. If even one of them drifts into that hallway, 4 men in counterfeit uniforms stand exposed where no prisoner belongs. And if the disguise holds, what waits on the other side of the wire? Applause reverberates through the theatre as the final curtain falls. German officers in the front rows offer polite claps. The last stagehands exit the stage. In the blackness above, 4 men hover over the trapdoor. Neve pulls the rope. The hatch swings wide. They drop into the storeroom below. A plank groans under impact, but the sound vanishes beneath applause, still trembling through the floorboards. Light bleeds from the hallway beyond. They flatten against the wall. Listen. Nothing. They push a metal door open and step into the corridor above the guardhouse, the German side of Colditz castle, territory where no prisoner has any right to breathe. Neve smooths his Feldgrau coat. Lutine adjusts an officer's cap. They exchange the parole word in whispered German, a phrase overheard from a guard 3 weeks prior. Below them, a sergeant hunches over reports at his desk. 2 officers descend the staircase. The sergeant glances up, nods without interest, returns to his paperwork. They cross to a small door, step into the outer courtyard. Cold air floods their lungs. A single sentry stands at ease beneath the stone archway, separating castle from world. Neve's pulse slams against his throat. They carry themselves like officers returning from late duty, unhurried, shoulders squared, boots striking flagstones in confident rhythm. The sentry's gaze tracks them. He hesitates. 1 second. 2. Then they pass beneath the arch and through the gate, moving in the one direction no escaper in Colditz history has ever attempted. Straight out the front door of the German command block. Bitter wind strikes their faces. They drop into the dry moat, scramble across, scale the outer wall into Colditz Park. Moonlit trees devour them. They tear off German caps and coats, stuff them beneath undergrowth, revealing civilian clothes layered underneath. Worn jackets, shabby hats, the disguise of Westphalian factory workers. Lutin grins in the dark. They have walked out of the most secure prison in the Third Reich in under 5 minutes. They split to halve the risk. Neve boards a freight train at Litzmannstadt before dawn. A German newspaper lies open across his lap. Camouflage. A regional train carries him south. Every station platform is a dice roll, a suspicious conductor, an alert policeman, a checkpoint he never anticipated. He changes trains for Singen, the last German town before the Swiss frontier. Outside Singen, he reconnects with Lutine near a forest road. 2 Hitler youth boys, rifles slung across their shoulders, challenge every man on the path. They inform Neve and Lutine they are hunting 2 escaped prisoners of war reported in the district. Neve presents his forged papers with deliberately trembling hands. A jittery factory hand from Cologne. Nothing else. The soldiers examine the papers. One lowers his weapon. The other gestures them forward with a shrug. The 2 men they're searching for stand close enough to touch and walk past without a word. By midnight, they reach the border fence. Snow blankets the terrain, ghostly beneath a sliver of moon. They drag themselves through knotted barbed wire in pitch darkness and brutal cold. Fabric catches on rusted spikes. Fingers go dead, scraping uphill towards Swiss soil. The temperature has plunged far below freezing. Every inch of elevation is earned. Neve's hands leave blood on frozen metal. Then the slope flattens. A signpost materializes in the murk. Swiss lettering. They stand